Good morning, everyone. My name is David Cory with the Emotional Intelligence Training Company, and we are here with the fourth in our 15-part series on the various competencies that make up the Bar-On Model of EQ, owned by Multi Health Systems, MHS, based in Toronto, Canada. The Emotional Intelligence Training Company is based in Western Canada. We've got two bases, one in Calgary, Alberta, one in Vancouver, BC. We're coming to you from our beautiful Vancouver, BC location today. It's a sunny day, and the weather is quite spectacular out there, and we're here talking about emotional expression. Uh, our last session was talking about emotional self-awareness, and of course we need to first of all be aware of emotions and be paying attention and notice those emotions and then be able to express those positively. And this session is going to talk a little bit more about emotional expression as a critical piece of emotional intelligence competency. So let's start off by talking about the idea of emotions as energy, and energy that causes us to take action. Originally, and if we think about primitive human beings and and what might be going on to allow us to survive, we had to have various responses to stimuli in order to, and then productive and adaptive responses to stimuli in order for us to survive as a species. For pleasant emotions, the response was positive reinforcement for having done various activities and participated in various things that, of course, would perpetuate the species. Things like feeding and mating, etc. Positive reinforcement so that we would keep doing that, so that we would perpetuate the species. And now, in contemporary society, in 2014, we have various responses to stimuli, and then what do we do with that? What do we do with that energy, those physical sensations, the bodily feelings that result from our response to various stimuli? What do we do with that? And if we don't express that either verbally, that is, we actually describe those feelings and say and talk about those feelings out loud to someone else, then we're likely to take actions and do things as a result of and stimulated by, motivated by those particular feelings and emotions, which may or may not carry us further towards our goal, but may in fact take us away from the pathway to our goals, and stand as limitations or barriers to our achievement. And so that's what we want to make sure is that we are in fact dealing with our emotions in ways that move us closer and take us toward our goals and not away from our goals. That's what we want to think about and talk about. So what happens when we don't express our emotions? Well, when we don't express our emotions, a whole range of results resulting from untoward actions. And what I mean by untoward actions or behaviors, these are things where people don't even realize that they're not um, uh, acting or behaving in ways that they would like to behave. For example, imagine a salesperson whose job it is to be excited about their product, and they are affected negatively by something that's happening at home, something that is happening personally. And of course, I say this all the time in my workshops and seminars and keynote talks that we don't, as human beings, park our emotions at the door before we walk into our workplace. We bring all those emotions with us, all that emotional baggage, everything that's been happening at home and in our personal lives. We bring all that with us into the workplace, and then, of course, we have to make sure that emotional baggage does not interfere with what we need to do to be effective in the workplace. So back to our salesperson example, we've got a salesperson who has to be really excited about the product that they're having to promote, and they're being affected by something that has happened at home or in their personal life, and they don't come across as enthusiastic or as optimistic or as positive about the product. Well, that's not going to cause them to be most effective in that situation, and they may not even realize it. So that's what I mean by untoward impacts of unexpressed emotions. Now let's move along the scale from untoward actions to perhaps eccentricity, where people are acting in ways that evidently something is really strange about that unexpressed emotion in terms of the behaviors that we see, and move that continuum along further in the direction of the sort of maladaptive responses to unexpressed emotions, and we move into the area of neuroses, where people are actually displaying neurotic behavior as a result of unexpressed emotions. Keep on going down that line, and you get into the area of mental illness, such as psychoses, addictions, etc. So expressing emotions is critically important to our mental health, to our well-being, etc. And I see that we're joined on the program by my colleague, Mr. Kim Cairns. Welcome, Kim. How are you this morning?
Good morning, Dave. Fine, yourself?
I can't hear you, Kim. Maybe check and see that your mic is unmuted. Make sure that it's unmuted and turned on, and I'll get back to you and maybe ask you a question and bring you into the conversation in just a second. But just want to talk about this idea of emotions carrying data, carrying information for us, and so our response to a particular stimulus is bringing with it various information and data about how we're thinking and feeling about a particular stimulus. And what happens in relationships is that we see people acting in ways that maybe we don't quite understand. And so the critical importance of expressing emotions is to let people know what's going on beneath the surface. And if we can help people to understand more about how we are operating, or why we're behaving the way that we are, then this is critical information for the relationship. And now we can really relate with each other, and it deepens and strengthens relationships. So if emotional expression is something that is difficult for you, or something that perhaps an area that you could improve in, then here I've thought about a couple of recommendations for how to improve emotional expression. One of which is to start with positive feelings. And so just by simply saying to your significant other or your boss or your teammates at work the fact that you are happy, you're having a great day. These are things that are very easy for us to communicate to others. Just saying that things are going well, I'm happy today, I've had a success. These are all easy to talk about. Where it gets difficult to talk about is when those emotions range into the unpleasant. These are things like frustration, like anger, overwhelm, despair. These are the things that are really difficult to talk about, and for those particularly unpleasant emotions, we have another solution, which is the I statement. And I know many of you have heard of these I statements, and they go back a long way, and I think they may in fact be attributed to a fellow named Gordon Wilson, who created and forgive me if I've got that wrong. In fact, I'll go check on that and confirm that. However, I statements are important because they give you a framework for talking about unpleasant emotions in ways that are very effective. For example, when you say, I feel, and fill in the blank, I feel angry, nobody can take that away from you. And so that's an inarguable fact that you feel angry. And so by saying I feel angry, that's letting people in. That's letting people know what's going on beneath the surface. That's letting people into you, which is of course the beginning of the creation of intimacy. Is letting people know what's going on inside. And this brings people closer together by letting people know more about that inner world of yours, that inner world of emotions and feelings. And so that's the first part of the I statement is I feel whatever it is that you're feeling, and don't get into judging your feelings and thinking that you should feel a certain way or you should not feel a certain way. These are ways that we get in our own way. It's simply a matter of, first of all, of course, as per our last episode, being aware of the emotions that we're experiencing, and secondarily saying, I feel blank, whatever that happens to be. Then the second part of the I statement is connecting your response to the stimuli. What was the stimulus involved? So I feel angry when you leave your dirty dishes in the sink, for example, if that's something that is angering to you. So there's that piece, and that needs to be as factual as possible. Again, an inarguable fact, not an opinion, not your simply your excuse me, what you believe to be true about that, but what you have observed. What is a factual action that someone has taken? So I feel angry when you leave your dirty dishes in the dishwasher. The last piece of the I statement is why. Why do you feel angry about, or why is anger your response to that particular stimulus? And then, of course, in our example, I feel angry when you leave your dishes in the dishwasher because I think you expect me to clean them up, and that's not how I want our relationship to go. Or whatever that happens to be. And I think that these I statements are extremely helpful when we're experiencing, again, unpleasant emotions. Some people use the terms negative and positive around emotions, and the reason I don't like negative and positive with regard to emotions is that emotions are a little bit like the weather, and so they are what they are. Uh, and with respect to weather, there's not really positive or negative weather. It's really, your experience of them. There's pleasant and unpleasant weather depending on the task and depending on what the activity is that you're interested in being involved in on that particular day in that particular time period. So pleasant and unpleasant really help a lot in terms of discussing emotions and talking about emotions. Even just if you have trouble pinpointing the exact emotion, just labeling it as pleasant or unpleasant is a great starting place. So I'm feeling unpleasant emotions as a result of an action that you just took, and here's why. Might be a start to using I statements. Kim, is your just wondering if your volume or if your mic is working at this moment in time, and whether you'd like to chime in here and just talk a little bit about the emotional expression.
Can you hear me, Dave?
Okay, still having a little bit of problems with the microphone for Kim. All right, well, let's talk about some of the physiological benefits of emotional expression. I find neuroscience research absolutely fascinating, and one of those neuroscience research findings that is really fascinating is the fact that when we express particularly unpleasant emotions, cortisol levels go down. And cortisol, as you know, is sometimes called the stress hormone. Cortisol is produced in response to stressful responses to situations. It is produced in response to fear, and it's not good for it to be circulating throughout our bloodstream. Of course, it is involved in the fight or flight response, and which is critically important evolutionarily to us human beings. But now in 2014, we need to be more in control of that fight or flight response. And we need to look for ways of reducing or lowering the cortisol levels in our bloodstream and get that cortisol back to where it's stored so that it doesn't wreak havoc on our system. And of course, what cortisol does over time and other effects of stress and fear, etc., unpleasant emotions, are that it creates physical diseases. So things like heart disease and hardening of the arteries, etc. And so whatever we can do to lower our cortisol is a good thing for us physiologically. And one of those is emotional expression. So when you are experiencing those unpleasant emotions, if you can find someone to express that to, someone to share that burden with, that's going to bring you closer to that person. And it's also going to, because, and one of the reasons that it brings us closer to people is that it's honest. It's what's actually happening and what's actually going on for you. And when we share that and use I statements appropriately and properly, we create deeper connections, we deepen levels of communication, and deepen levels of relating with each other. And again, relating is the basis of the word relationship, causes stronger connections, and brings people closer together. And again, that's another neuroscience finding, is that we are better together. Our biochemistry, our neurochemistry is more supportive of life when we are in a relationship with others and when we're connected. So we're designed for connection. And so it's about how do we connect better? How do we use what we know to connect better and at a deeper level? And so, of course, another little note that I jotted down regarding emotional expression is that it is the other side of empathy. And so we're going to get to empathy in our coming programs, and we're going to discuss empathy and talk about empathy. But of course, when someone is practicing empathy with us, the expectation and the way to make that communication more effective is effective and appropriate emotional expression. So when someone expresses empathy towards us, they are paying attention, they're willing to feel with us, which is what empathy is about. It drives connection, as Brene Brown so eloquently puts it, that empathy drives connection. And emotional expression is the basis for that conversation, that someone is able to actually let us know what's going on, and we're able to let others know what's going on, again, beneath the surface. If you can imagine that proverbial iceberg diagram, then you know this idea of what's going on beneath the surface, because all we have as human beings in terms of relating with each other at first is what we see. And if we don't see the physical expression of emotion, if we don't, if it's hard to read what's going on beneath the surface for someone, then we're at a bit of a loss as to how to relate and how to connect with people. And so again, emotional expression is the proactive communication. It's being proactive in terms of interpersonal relationships. So practice, dust off those I statements, and practice those I statements again with both pleasant and unpleasant emotions, and let people that you care about having deeper and more productive working relationships, let them know what's going on beneath the surface, so they can connect with you. This is something that I dearly love for Kim to speak to, because Kim is one of our EQ coaches that works a lot with managers, and it's regarding the question of emotional expression for managers. And so we work with a lot of people who are baby boomers, and they're a little bit older, and have a bit of a traditional view of the workplace, which is you come to work, you do your work, you work hard and you go home. And so the idea of relating and communicating at a deeper or more intimate level with employees is a little bit odd. And so we end up talking about how emotional expression can actually help managers to have better relationships with employees. Uh, Kim, did you manage to get your microphone situation sorted out? I haven't really heard you yet, and so okay, I don't hear Kim. But I'm pretty sure that if we were to ask him and bring him into the conversation, that Kim would talk about how we need to encourage managers to let employees in, let them know more about what's going on inside them, and again, start off with pleasant, and just have managers say, "I'm really pleased with the way things are going. I'm happy about the actions that you took with respect to the client that you dealt with last week. I acknowledge and appreciate what you're doing here." And so those kinds of acknowledgments, those kinds of emotional expressions, again, fuel connection and drive the strengthening of relationships, the deepening of relationships, and are only good for everyone in the workplace. And we talk a lot about leadership and team effectiveness in our work with organizations. Uh, and this is leadership is about those relationships that we have with people. It's about knowing them and having them know us. And when people know you, when people really know what you're about in an honest and authentic way, and they know what you stand for and what you won't stand for, and you're able to let them in and express emotions in an effective way, then of course those relationships are really going to pay off down the road for you when it's really important that people have your back. Okay, so where do we go from here now that we've talked a little bit about the critical importance of emotional expression, a little bit about how to do it, and again, look at those I statements and consider again using them for both positive and for there I said it too, pleasant and unpleasant emotions, and see how that drives connection and deepens relationships, particularly with the people that you're most interested in having deeper relationships with. And now, one final piece that I want to discuss, and again, we're happy to take your questions. The question the question component of our, I think I just didn't have it opened up, and so maybe that's why I'm not seeing your questions. And happy to take any of your questions that you have about emotional expression, and make this a bit more of a dialogue, a two-way communication. Be happy to do that. And so we'll wait to take a couple of questions. But one final piece that I wanted to add about emotional expression is body language and the physical expression of emotion. And so here's a great question to ask yourself is how often do you smile? And who do you smile with? Because smiling is one of those physical expressions of emotion that drives connection more than any other single factor involved in the physical expression of emotion. And when we smile, it impacts on other people positively. It attracts people to us. It says that we're content, that we have a level of well-being and happiness in our lives. It's a universal door opener. It's a universal conversation starter. It's a universal connector. Is to smile, and so it's a great question. How often do you smile? And if you're someone who has trouble smiling, for whatever reason, I say try to practice smiling and seeing what you can do about that smile. You don't have to have a big toothy smile. You can smile with your mouth closed if there are issues with your teeth or whatever, but yeah, it's really important that you let people know that things are going okay for you. And then when they're not going okay for you, find those people in your life, those people who can be supportive and helpful to you and empathic with you while you use perhaps your I statements or if the issue is maybe not about them, that you use your I statements about whomever, about whatever the stimulus is that is upsetting you. And when we again express those emotions to others and talk about the stimulus, we understand more about the stimulus, more about our thoughts around the stimulus, more about the assumptions and beliefs which enter the picture as well. And like Albert Ellis's rational emotive therapy, we can begin to think about situations and circumstances and how they affect us, and know more and understand more about our reactions and responses to various situations and circumstances, more about our hot buttons and why we react the way we react. And as we always say at EITC, the more aware you are, the more you know about your operating system, the more you know about your own relationship with emotions and why you react the way you do to various situations and circumstances, the better position you are to make choices and be intentional about what you want to change and how you want to be different and how you want to grow and develop. And that's a start. So encourage emotional expression. It's absolutely core to emotional intelligence. Is first of all emotional self-awareness, and second of all emotional expression. Those go together like a hand in glove, like hands interlaced. They always go together. So in terms of questions that people have, just seen a question coming in now, and the question is around what if there's something that you feel if you bring it up will damage a relationship. And this is a very common issue with relationships, of course, is that something's come up, someone's done something very difficult to talk about. And again, I guess my answer to that question would have to go back to the I statements, that what you need to do is to take a look at how you would put that into an I statement and draw upon some of the power of assertiveness, which we're going to talk about next time, in terms of saying what is honest, saying what is authentic for you, if it is a violation of a value of yours, or exactly how it is affecting you. You need to say, I feel, again, whatever it is that you feel, uh, and when you connect it to the behavior, the action that the other person has taken or is taking, and then why. And again, it's because of your perspective, because of your beliefs and assumptions and your thoughts about that stimulus that you have the feelings that you have. And so letting people in that way is only going to be better. And what I mean by better is that if that relationship is a relationship that is meant to be, that is maybe not a familial relationship. Families forever, and of course some of those relationships end sooner than they need to, and maybe don't go the way that you want them to. But you need to say what you need to say, and this is part of many conversation models as well. Some great books, Crucial Conversations, Fierce Conversations, Difficult Conversations are all going to help you to bring up things that are very difficult to bring up and talk about them in ways that are productive and helpful and useful for you and constructive for you, and hopefully the relationship. All right, so that's all the time that we have for today. I'm sorry I wasn't able to bring Kim in on this particular program. Please join us for our next session, which will be on assertiveness, and we'll be certain to post the date and let you know all about that, when that's going to be, and come and join us and send in your questions. And thanks for joining us today. My name's David Cory with the Emotional Intelligence Training Company, and my colleague Kim Cairns with the Emotional Intelligence Training Company. And please contact us with your questions and call us to discuss how we might work together for mutual benefit. That's all for now. Bye.